The massive colony ship Astral Haven floated quietly in the empty space between star systems. Inside the ship, 50,000 Zephyrian families waited in fear. Their engines had stopped working 3 days ago, and now they were stuck in the cold darkness with nowhere to go. Commander Veltar walked slowly through the ship's corridors. His blue skin looked pale under the emergency lights. The Zephyrians were a peaceful people who loved to grow plants and take care of their families. They had never wanted to fight wars or build weapons. They just wanted a safe place to live and raise their children. Commander called out his assistant, a young Zephyrian named Colwen. The life support systems are failing faster than we thought. We have maybe 2 weeks left before the air runs out. Veltar closed his eyes and took a deep breath. 2 weeks to save 50,000 people. He had already sent out distress signals to everyone in the galaxy. Surely someone would come to help them. The first response came from the Altarian Republic. Veltar's heart jumped with hope as he read the message. But his hope quickly turned to disappointment. The Altarians said they were sorry, but helping the Astral Haven would cost too much fuel. They could not afford such an expensive rescue mission. Next came a reply from the Centauran Empire. They were the strongest military force in the galaxy. Certainly they would help. But their message was even colder than the first. They said the Zephyrians had nothing valuable to offer them. Why should they waste their ships and soldiers on people who could not help them win wars? The Trade Federation sent the cruelest message of all. They calculated exactly how much money they could make from the Zephyrians if they were saved. The number was not big enough. They recommended that the Astral Haven be listed as an acceptable loss in their official records. As the hours passed, more messages arrived. Each one was the same. The galaxy's most powerful species all said no. They had ships that could easily save everyone. They had technology that could fix the broken engines. They had resources that could keep 50,000 people alive. But they chose not to use any of it. Veltar sat in his command chair and stared at the screens showing his dying ship. Around him, families huddled together in the cold corridors. Children asked their parents why the lights were getting dimmer. Parents held their babies closer and tried not to cry. The ship's doctor, a kind old Zephyrian named Medere, came to see him. Commander, the children are getting sick from the bad air. The elderly are having trouble breathing. How long do we have? Not long enough, Veltar whispered. The galaxy has decided we are not worth saving. In the ship's main gathering area, thousands of Zephyrians sat together. They sang their old songs and told stories to their children. They shared what little food they had left. Even facing death, they remained kind to each other. A mother named Sileare held her twin daughters close. The little girls were only 5 years old. They did not understand why everyone looked so sad. Mama, when are we going to our new home? One of them asked. Sileare's eyes filled with tears. Soon, little one. Very soon. She did not have the heart to tell them that their new home might be among the stars themselves. The ship's engineers worked day and night to fix the engines, but it was hopeless. The damage was too great. Chief Engineer Morketh had not slept in 3 days. His hands shook as he tried one more repair. Nothing worked. The engines were completely dead. We need parts we don't have, Morketh told the commander. We need tools that only the advanced species possess. We need help from people who actually know how to fix this kind of damage. But that help was not coming. The galaxy's most advanced civilizations had already made their choice. The Galactic Council, which was supposed to protect all species, had sent their final message. It was written in cold, official language that tried to hide the terrible truth. After careful consideration of all factors including economic impact, strategic value, and resource allocation, the Galactic Council has determined that rescue operations for the colony ship Astral Haven are not feasible at this time. The Council extends its sympathies to all affected parties and wishes them peace in their final hours. Veltar read the message aloud to his people. There was no anger in the crowd. The Zephyrians were too gentle for rage. Instead, there was only sadness and quiet acceptance. They had always known they were not as strong or as smart as the other species. Now they knew they were also not as important. As night fell on the ship, if night had any meaning in the endless darkness of space, families gathered together one last time. They told their children stories of the green world they would never see. They sang lullabies that would soon be silenced forever. The temperature inside the ship continued to drop. The air grew thin and stale. In the distance, stars twinkled like tiny lights, beautiful and unreachable. The Astral Haven drifted alone, carrying 50,000 souls that the galaxy had decided were not worth the effort to save. Commander Veltar made one last entry in his log. We came to the stars seeking hope and a new beginning. Instead, we found that the universe can be a cold and uncaring place. But we will face our end with dignity, as our people always have. May someone, somewhere, remember that we tried to live good lives. The beacon continued to broadcast into the empty void, but no one was listening anymore. 3 weeks had passed since the astral haven began its slow death in the void. The air inside the ship was getting worse every day. Children coughed more often. The elderly moved slower. Commander Veltar had stopped counting how many days they had left. It was too painful to know. Then something unexpected happened. "Commander," shouted Communications Officer Ralden from his station. "I'm picking up ships on our sensors. Multiple contacts approaching fast." Veltar's heart sank. Probably scavengers coming to pick through their ship after everyone was dead. That was how things worked in this galaxy. The strong took from the weak, and the weak were forgotten. "How many ships?" Veltar asked quietly. 15, no, 20, sir, I count at least 30 ships and more are arriving every few minutes. Veltar frowned. That was too many ships for scavengers. Pirates maybe? Had someone decided to put the dying Zephyrians out of their misery? He walked to the main viewing screen and gasped at what he saw. The approaching fleet was unlike anything he had ever seen. Some ships were sleek military vessels painted in blue and white. Others were huge cargo haulers with extra fuel tanks attached to their sides. There were even small civilian ships that looked like they had been quickly changed from passenger liners into rescue vehicles. But the strangest thing was the markings on the ships. Veltar had studied the flags and symbols of every major species in the galaxy. These symbols were unfamiliar. The ships had strange writing on their hulls in a language he had never seen before. "Sir," Ralden said with confusion in his voice, "they're sending us a message. But the translation computers are having trouble with their language. It's very primitive." "Put it through," Veltar ordered. The main screen flickered, and suddenly a face appeared. It was unlike any species Veltar knew. The being had pale skin, dark hair, and small eyes. Its face was smooth without scales or fur. When it spoke, its voice was firm but somehow warm. "This is Captain Park Woojin of the Human Rescue Fleet," the strange being said. "We received your distress call. We're here to help." "Human?" Veltar whispered. He had heard of this species. They were new to the galaxy, barely 100 years in space. Most of the advanced species considered them backward and unimportant. Their technology was simple. Their ships were slow. They had no great empire or vast wealth. "Captain Park," Veltar replied, trying to keep hope out of his voice. "I am Commander Veltar. I must warn you, we have 50,000 people aboard this ship. Our life support is failing. We need massive resources for any rescue attempt." The human captain's face showed something that Veltar had not seen from any other species: immediate concern. Not calculation. Not questions about payment. Just worry for people he had never met. 50,000, Captain Park repeated. "That's a lot of people. My fleet is not equipped for a rescue this large." Veltar's heart began to sink again. But then the human continued. "But we'll find a way. We always do." Behind Captain Park, Veltar could see other humans working frantically at their stations. A young woman with short black hair was typing rapidly on her computer. A man in uniform was talking quickly into his communication device. Everyone moved with purpose and energy. "Captain," the young woman called out, "Admiral Kim is asking if we're sure about this mission. Command says this rescue will push our ships beyond safe limits." Captain Park turned to her. "Tell Admiral Kim that humans don't leave people to die. We'll figure out the details as we go." The woman nodded and continued her work. Veltar noticed something amazing. None of the humans looked worried about the cost or the danger. They all just focused on solving the problem. "Commander Veltar," Captain Park said, turning back to the screen. "I'm sending my chief engineer over to look at your ship. Her name is Han Minutjung. She's worked miracles before." Within an hour, a small human shuttle docked with the astral haven. The airlock opened, and 3 humans stepped aboard. The first was a woman with graying hair and kind eyes. She wore a uniform with patches and tools hanging from her belt. The other 2 were younger humans carrying boxes of equipment. "I'm Engineer Han Minutjung," the woman said to Veltar. "Don't worry, Commander. We've never met a problem we couldn't solve, even if we had to break a few rules doing it." As Minutjung and her team went to examine the ship's engines, more human ships arrived. Veltar watched in amazement as the human fleet grew to over 50 vessels. Each ship was different. Some were military. Some were civilian. Some looked like they had been cargo ships just days before. Captain Park explained over the communication link. When word got out about your situation, volunteers came from all over human space. Merchant captains, retired military officers, even families with their own small ships. Everyone wanted to help. But why? Veltar asked. You don't know us. We have nothing to offer your people. The Galactic Council said we weren't worth saving. Captain Park was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was steady and certain. Commander, where we come from, the value of a life isn't measured in credits or strategic importance. Your people in trouble. That's all we need to know. Engineer Han Minute-jung crawled through the dark engine compartment of the Astral Haven, her flashlight cutting through the smoky air. Behind her, 2 human engineers and 3 Zephyrian mechanics worked together, trying to understand the massive damage to the ship's power core. This is worse than I thought, Minute-jung said into her radio. Captain Park, the main reactor isn't just broken. It's completely destroyed. We would need a full shipyard and 3 months to fix this properly. Captain Park's voice crackled back through the static. How long do we have before the ship loses all power? Minute-jung looked at her readings. The numbers were not good. Maybe 12 hours, sir. After that, life support will fail completely. Around her, the Zephyrian engineers looked hopeless. Their chief engineer, Morketh, had dark circles under his eyes from weeks of trying impossible repairs. I told you it cannot be fixed, he said sadly. We are all going to die here. But Minute-jung was not listening to the negative talk. She was studying the ship's design, looking for any way to keep people alive longer. What if we don't try to fix it? She said suddenly. What do you mean? Asked her assistant, a young human engineer named Kim Jae-ho. We can't fix the ship, but we don't have to. We just need to move everyone to our ships. Minute-jung stood up and dusted off her uniform. Captain, I need to speak with all the human ship commanders right now. 20 minutes later, every human captain in the fleet was connected on a video call. Minute-jung could see their faces on her screen, tired but determined people from all walks of life. There was Captain Lee Subin of the cargo ship Daegu, Captain Yoon Taewook of the military destroyer Incheon, and dozens of others. Here's the situation, Minute-jung explained. The Astral Haven cannot be saved. But we can save everyone on it. We need to evacuate 50,000 Zephyrians to our ships. Captain Lee frowned. Engineer Han, my cargo ship can maybe take 1,000 people safely. Even if we pack them in like boxes, we're talking about way too many people for our fleet. Then we get creative, Minute-jung replied. We make room where there is no room. We use cargo bays, maintenance areas, even empty fuel tanks if we have to. Dr. Yoon Ji-hai, the chief medical officer on the hospital ship Seoul, raised her hand. The medical concerns alone are enormous. We're talking about people who have been breathing bad air for weeks. They'll need constant care. Then we give them constant care, Captain Park's voice cut through the discussion. I've made my decision. We evacuate everyone. All of them. I don't care if we have to stack people 5 deep in every room. The next few hours were chaos. Human ships docked with the Astral Haven from every possible angle. Cargo bays were quickly converted into living spaces. Medical bays expanded into hallways. Even the bridge crews gave up their quarters to make room for families. Engineer Kim Jae-ho worked without sleeping, installing extra air recyclers in storage rooms. We're pushing these systems way beyond their limits, he told Minute-jung. If even one recycler fails, people could suffocate. Then we make sure none of them fail, Minute-jung replied, continuing to weld support brackets for a makeshift shelter. On the human destroyer Busan, Chief Petty Officer Nam Subin was helping Zephyrian families settle into the ship's dining hall. Mothers held crying babies while fathers tried to comfort older children who were scared and confused. It's okay, Subin told a little Zephyrian girl who was afraid. You're safe now. The humans will take care of you. The girl looked up at Subin with big, frightened eyes. Are you sure? The council said nobody cared about us. Subin knelt down to the girl's level. Well, the council was wrong. We care about you very much. Meanwhile, in the Astral Haven's main corridor, Commander Veltar watched in amazement as humans and Zephyrians worked side by side. Human soldiers carried elderly Zephyrians to the evacuation shuttles. Zephyrian parents helped human crew members set up temporary sleeping areas. Dr. Yoon Ji-hai was everywhere at once, checking on 6 Zephyrians and making sure her human medical teams were not getting too tired. We need more medical supplies, she called out to her assistant, Lieutenant Lim Sejin. We're running low on everything, Doctor, Lim replied. The human ships are sharing all their medicine, but there are so many patients. Then we stretch what we have, Dr. Yoon said firmly. Nobody dies on my watch. As the evacuation continued, news of the rescue spread throughout the galaxy. On the Altarian homeworld, government officials watched the news with confusion. On Centauri Prime, military commanders could not understand why the humans were taking such risks. They're going to kill themselves trying to save those people, said one Altarian minister. It makes no logical sense. But the humans did not care about logic. They cared about doing what was right. Captain Oh Tae-hyun piloted his small transport ship back and forth between the Astral Haven and the human fleet. Each trip, he packed his ship with as many Zephyrians as possible. On his 15th trip, his co-pilot warned him that they were carrying too much weight. The engines are straining, Captain. We could lose power. Then we fly very carefully, Oh replied. These people are counting on us. The evacuation had been going on for 60 hours straight. Human crews worked without rest, moving thousands of Zephyrians from their dying ship to the overcrowded rescue fleet. Everyone was exhausted, but nobody stopped working. Captain Park Woo-jin stood on the bridge of the New Seoul, watching the constant stream of shuttles moving between ships. His uniform was wrinkled and stained with sweat. He had not slept in 3 days. Around him, his crew looked just as tired, but their hands never stopped moving across their control panels. Status report, Park said to his communications officer, Lieutenant Choi Tae-minute. Sir, we've evacuated 43,000 people so far, Tae-minute replied, his voice hoarse from talking on the radio for hours. 7,000 still to go. Park nodded. 7,000 people. It sounded like a small number, but every single life mattered. He looked at the clock on his screen. They were running out of time fast. On the Astral Haven, the lights flickered constantly now. The air was so bad that everyone had to wear breathing masks. Chief Engineer Morketh worked alongside the humans, but he could barely stand up. The weeks of bad air and stress had made him very weak. The reactor temperature is rising too fast, Morketh told Engineer Minute-jung. When it reaches critical level, the whole ship will explode. Minute-jung wiped sweat from her face. How long do we have? Maybe 4 hours. Maybe less. Minute-jung grabbed her radio. All evacuation teams, this is Chief Engineer Han. We need to speed up the process. The ship's reactor is going to explode soon. Across the rescue fleet, humans pushed themselves even harder. Dr. Yoon Ji-hai had not left the medical bay of the Seoul for 2 days. She moved from patient to patient, treating 6 Zephyrians while her own staff collapsed from exhaustion. Doctor, you need to rest, said her nurse, Lieutenant Park Minute-seo. You're going to make yourself sick. I'll rest when everyone is safe, Dr. Yoon replied, checking the breathing of an elderly Zephyrian man. How are we doing on medical supplies? We're sharing everything we have with the other ships. Even the civilian vessels are giving us their first aid kits. On the cargo ship Daegu, Captain Lee Subin was converting her ship's main cargo hold into a living space for 800 Zephyrian families. The space was only designed to hold freight containers, not people, but they were making it work. We need more air recyclers in here, Lee told her engineer, Chief Kim Dong-soo. The carbon dioxide levels are getting dangerous. Kim wiped his hands on his uniform. Captain, I've already installed twice as many recyclers as this space was designed for. If I add more, the power grid might fail. Then we reinforce the power grid, Lee said firmly. These people need clean air. The most dangerous job belonged to the shuttle pilots. Captain Oh Tae-hyun was on his 21st trip between the Astral Haven and the human fleet. His small transport ship was packed with 43 Zephyrians, including 12 children and 6 elderly people who could barely walk. Captain, the Astral Haven's docking bay is starting to collapse, his co-pilot, Sergeant Lim Jae-sung, warned him. The metal is warping from the heat. This might be our last trip. Oh looked at his passengers. Zephyrian families huddled together, trusting him to get them to safety. Then we better make it count, he said. As they flew toward the human fleet, Oh's radio crackled with urgent messages. All shuttles, return to your ships immediately, came Captain Park's voice. The Astral Haven's reactor is becoming unstable faster than expected. But Oh could see something through his cockpit window that made his heart race. There were still people waiting in the Astral Haven's docking bay. Dozens of Zephyrian families standing there, hoping for rescue. Control, this is Oh Tae-hyun. I'm seeing people still waiting for evacuation. How many more trips do we need? Engineer Minutjung's voice came through the radio, filled with stress. Captain O, we estimate about 300 people are still aboard. But the reactor could explode any minute. It's too dangerous to continue. O looked at his co-pilot, then at the Zephyrian families in his ship. These people had trusted the humans to save them. How could they leave 300 people behind? Control, I'm going back for one more load, O announced. Captain, negative. Park's voice was sharp with command. The risk is too great. Return to base immediately. But O was already turning his ship around. Behind him, several other shuttle pilots made the same decision. Captain Nam Subin of the transport Gwangju followed him. So did Lieutenant Kang Hawan in her military shuttle. If we're going to do this, we do it fast, Nam said over the radio. The final rescue run was terrifying. The Astral Haven was shaking apart as its reactor overheated. Sparks flew from broken electrical systems. The docking bay floor was hot enough to burn through boot soles. But the human pilots kept working. They loaded every single person they could find. Parents carried sleeping children. Teenagers helped elderly Zephyrians walk to the shuttles. Everyone moved as fast as they could. That's the last one, shouted pilot Kang Hawan. Everyone is accounted for. The shuttles raced away from the Astral Haven just as its reactor finally gave up. The massive colony ship exploded in a burst of light and heat, but it was empty now. Every single Zephyrian had been saved. 50,000 people. All alive. All safe aboard the human fleet. 6 months later, Captain Park Woojin walked through the green fields of New Harmony Colony. The sight still amazed him. What had once been a struggling human settlement on a distant planet was now a thriving world filled with life and hope. Zephyrian children ran through rows of tall grain plants, their laughter echoing across the farmland. Their parents worked alongside human farmers, teaching them secrets of growing food that had been passed down for thousands of years. The crops were bigger and healthier than anything the humans had ever grown before. Captain Park, called out a familiar voice. Commander Veltar approached, but he looked completely different now. His blue skin had a healthy glow, and his eyes were bright with purpose. Gone was the hopeless leader of a dying ship. In his place was a confident ambassador building a new future. Ambassador Veltar, Park replied with a smile. How are the preparations going for tomorrow's launch? The New Hope is ready for its first mission, Veltar said proudly. A joint exploration ship crewed by both humans and Zephyrians. Our agricultural specialists will search for new worlds suitable for farming, while your engineers will study ways to terraform planets faster. Park nodded as he watched human and Zephyrian engineers working together on the launch pad in the distance. The ship was beautiful, sleek human engineering combined with Zephyrian biological systems that could sustain life for years in deep space. Your people have given us so much, Park said. Our colonies are producing 3 times as much food as before. We're actually exporting grain to other human worlds now. Veltar's expression grew serious. Captain, you saved 50,000 lives when the galaxy said we were worthless. We will spend the rest of our existence trying to repay that debt. There is no debt, Park replied firmly. We're partners now. Family. In the colony's medical center, Dr. Yoon Ji-hai worked alongside Zephyrian healers in the research laboratory. They had discovered amazing things by combining human medical technology with Zephyrian knowledge of plant-based medicines. Dr. Yoon, look at these results, said her Zephyrian colleague, Healer Zenra. She pointed to data on her screen. The combination therapy is showing a 90% success rate in treating the wasting disease. Dr. Yoon studied the numbers with excitement. The wasting disease had killed thousands of humans on frontier worlds where medical supplies were limited. Now, using Zephyrian plant extracts with human genetic therapy, they could cure it completely. This will save so many lives, Dr. Yoon said. We need to get this treatment to every human colony immediately. But the changes went beyond just one colony. Across the galaxy, news of the human rescue had spread to every world and every species. The story was told differently depending on who was telling it, but the basic facts remained the same. Humans had risked everything to save people they barely knew. On the Carillion homeworld, President Mordander sat in his office reading reports from his military advisors. For the first time in decades, they were not planning ways to conquer territory or defeat enemies. Instead, they were discussing humanitarian aid missions. Sir, said his chief advisor, General Coltais, our intelligence networks are reporting something unusual. 3 minor species in the Outer Rim have established mutual defense pacts. They're calling them humanity-style agreements, focused on protecting each other rather than exploiting resources. Mordantis leaned back in his chair. The humans are changing how the galaxy thinks about relationships between species. Meanwhile, on the Centauran Empire's capital world, High Admiral Zextorith faced growing pressure from younger officers who questioned the Empire's policies. Commander Velkaris, a decorated war hero, had submitted a formal request to establish rescue protocols for civilian ships in distress. Admiral, with respect, Velkaris said during their meeting, we have the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. We could save thousands of lives every year with minimal cost to our resources. The Admiral's old instincts told him to dismiss such wasteful thinking. But he had seen the reports from New Harmony Colony. The humans and Zephyrians were becoming stronger together, creating new technologies and forming trade relationships that benefited both species. Submit a detailed proposal, the Admiral said finally. We will consider it. Back on New Harmony, Lieutenant Lim Sejin was training the first class of mixed human Zephyrian medical officers. Her students came from both species, learning to work together as naturally as breathing. The key to emergency medicine, she explained to the class, is never giving up on a patient. Even when the situation looks impossible, even when others say it cannot be done, you keep trying. A young human student raised her hand. Lieutenant, what if the resources required are too expensive? What if helping one patient means we cannot help others? Lim smiled. That's exactly the kind of thinking that almost killed 50,000 innocent people. We find a way to help everyone. That's what humans do. That's what our Zephyrian partners do. That's what we do together. In the colony's communication center, news reports came in from across the galaxy. The Trade Federation had quietly begun funding emergency rescue services for stranded ships. The Vegan Confederacy had established new protocols requiring aid to civilian vessels in distress. Even some Galactic Council members were proposing changes to their cold utilitarian policies. Captain Park stood at his office window, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. Human and Zephyrian families walked together through the streets below, their children playing games that mixed both cultures. His communication officer, Ty Minute, brought him the latest reports. Sir, we're receiving requests for partnership from 6 different species. They want to establish colonies based on the New Harmony model. Park smiled. Send word to Admiral Kim. Tell her we're going to need more ships. It looks like we're going to be very busy building a better galaxy. The message was spreading from world to world, no one gets left behind.